right.
Cool.
Point Break. So,
Point Break. Baby.
How many times have you seen this? Because I've seen it twice.
Countless times.
Okay.
Like, I don't even know how many times I've seen it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, one of the things that I saw visually that was very similar to Heat, which we just did, was that telephoto lens. We're like,
okay, of all the things that are similar.
but a lot.
It's a telephoto lens, definitely. It's not the cops and robbers. It's not the bromance between the two main characters. It's the telephoto lens that really ties these films together.
That was the one.
And it's not the fact that Tom Sizemore is in both movies.
Right.
Well, it's not that either.
No, that's not a connection for me at all.
No, didn't notice that.
But yeah, there was that look, that telephoto lens look that both of them used, and they were 4 years apart, because this was in 91,
right? And
then Heat, I want to say, was 95. 95, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So before we get into the plot, anything like production wise? Any thoughts about it before we get into the plot?
Well, I think it's important to note that this movie, an action movie, directed by a woman, Catherine Bigelow, who went on to do the Oscar-winning Hurt Locker and a few other action movies.
Also married to James Cameron.
Yes, and she was married to James Cameron at the time.
Yep.
She was divorced to James Cameron when she won the Oscars, so...
She can always say
him.
that.
I think she beat him for the Oscar at that time. So yeah, it was some vindication or whatever you want to call it.
That's
revenge.
Yep.
Something.
That's
They're
funny.
going on, I'm sure. But yeah, James Cameron was like uncredited. I think uncredited in the film, but they both like rewrote the final draft of the script.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is Peter Eliff, the writer, I have a mutual friend with him.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be kind of funny if in the future we got him on this podcast and we just went through the whole writing process that he went through to make this. That would be pretty cool.
Right. I did read a little bit about him, and he was, waiting tables at the time that he wrote the script.
Wow.
And then I think originally not James Cameron, but Ridley Scott bought it, but then it went into purgatory for about 4 years, so he had to wait tables for 4 more years, so they say, before the movie eventually got greenlit. So
interesting.
All these interesting, these movies, how they do take many years to kind of get together and figure out who's going to do it and the director. And I also read that, the director Bigelow, really insisted it's like I want Keanu Reeves, nobody else. I won't make the movie without him. And I think pretty much same thing with Swayze. They were very dead set on the casting of this movie for the two main roles. And originally, I think they wanted, or Crow or somebody, the producers wanted Swayze to play the good cop. And then they wanted then they went to like Matthew Broderick or Johnny Depp to play Utah. And then I forget another guy that, Johnny Depp type to play the Johnny Utah part. And the original title of the movie was either going to be Johnny Utah or Riders on the Storm.
Oh, wow.
But they went with the title Point Break, which is genius, because I actually, when I first moved to California, having seen this movie, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to surf. I mean, I'm here, I might as well, win in Rome. And it sucks. I hate it.
Yeah.
You're getting cold water splashed in your face like every 10 seconds, and you paddle out and you got to wait for the right wave. And if you don't know really what you're doing, you're not going to be out there on the real breaks, the point breaks.
Yeah.
And there are no reef breaks. So you've got to learn on a beach break, which is the worst kind of break. So there are 3 kind of breaks, Cody. The beach break, the reef break, and the point break. And the point break is the best break and also the most dangerous. But the beach break sucks because the waves are basically breaking on the beach, so they come up really quick and they crash really quick.
Yeah.
And they're they're going right into the beach, so the whole wave breaks at the same time, and the water gets sucked into the wave. So you're on the wave, and then all you see is sand because the water is like sucked into the wave, and you wipe out. You're going like right into the hard sand and not the water. So yeah, it's not a good place to learn to surf.
Interesting.
But that's why the surfers are so territorial in Southern California, because the point breaks are really the only places that you can catch a good wave, because the waves are angular and they break, down the wave. So the wave doesn't break all at the same time. So you can ride the tube down, at an angle down the wave, which is what you're supposed to do. All right, and there's like some breaks around like piers, which is sort of a pier is like a kind of point break,
right? An artificial.
But you want to make you want some sort of thing that sticks out in the water that's going to make the wave break really early and continue to break way before it gets to the beach, because you don't want to ride it all the way into the beach, because then you got to paddle all the way back out, and then you crash into the sand. It's not good. So point break,
right?
That's the key fact.
So
the way to get a title of the movie. It's
nice. Love
great
it.
Title.
What's really wild is I was looking up the ages of the actors at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Keanu this was 91. Keanu was born in 64. So he was 74, 84, 27?
About 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, 39.
Yeah. And I don't think this would have worked if Swayze was younger than Keanu, because he does have to have like this seasoned mentor role. Yeah. And Keanu's like got to be this really, he's fresh out of the academy. Yeah. So he's got to be in the early to mid 20s or late 20s or whatever. But to have that dynamic. And then we've got Gary Busey, who's also an old guy. And you're like, how is this guy still in the FBI? Because he's an eccentric oddball
for sure,
in the character, but also sort of a mentor to Keanu, and that's the great relationship that they have. Because
what I was going to say on Patrick, just before you get to Gary, he doesn't look 39.
Right.
Dude looks like he's maybe 30. Like phenomenal shape. Like him and Keanu Reeves side by side, you're like similar
maybe 3
ages.
Years apart or something.
Yeah.
Like about
But I mean, not an ounce of fat on his body. His skin, phenomenal. It doesn't look like he's that much older than Keanu. And Keanu now at what, 59? How old is he now?
Yeah.
He looks 30. He looks 35.
Well, if you look, I'll talk about this a little later, but the great Lori Petty, so hot in this movie, such a great, feisty, strong woman who plays with the boys, and is able to pull that off, and she did some great movies in that same kind of spirit, like Tank Girl, was kind of like her kind of pinnacle movie, I think. But if you look at her now, she's like a grandma, and Keanu Reeves is still like a hot guy that can do action movies.
Pretty wild.
And stuff, so.
But no, this movie, story wise, fun, good. Keanu good, Gary Busey good, but this movie would not have worked without Patrick Swayze.
No,
so Patrick Swayze is the backbone of this movie.
So such a perfect role. I think this is, if I would say, like, of all his roles, this is his best role that he really nailed and inhabited. And you're like, you believe he's that guy.
Yeah.
He really kind of disappears into that character for sure.
Yeah.
And the character does have a very strong, like, code or ethos, very similar to how De Niro's character in Heat had his code and his principles that he followed.
Right.
But Bodhi is more a philosophical character.
Yeah.
And his, it's short for Bodhisattva, which is like the Buddhist, founder of Buddhism or something. And I think the main name Bodhi means like, what is it, deep thought or something like that, or the way, or... So
that was what I was going to look up that I did not remember. How do you... Bodhi... Let's see here. The Bodhi tree. Bodhi. Do you know how to spell Bodhisattva?
No, I do not.
Bodhi character. Bodhisattva.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Bodhisattva. So let's see what this actually means here.
A central figure in Buddhism, for sure.
Anyways, yeah, something. Yeah, just kind of. It's a made-up name. Like it's not his birth name for sure.
Right. It's a nickname, and a lot of people in the movie have pseudonyms. There's War Child, whose real name is like Lupton Pittman or something like that. Something very like white rich guy from Connecticut name, but he's a surf Nazi or something.
Right.
So and then there's a guy named Bunker, and then there's a guy named Roach, and I forget what the other guy's name is, but so the casting for the movie is I think Swayze already had like some surfing experience, but he was a very experienced skydiver. But the three main leads that were surfing, like Keanu Reeves never surfed. Apparently Lori Petty had never been in the ocean before. They all went to Hawaii to learn how to surf for this movie, which it's not easy. As I said, it's really tough to learn, but Hawaii is the best place to learn how to surf because the waves you can find like really gentle waves that stay up for a long time, and you need that time. The more time you have on the wave to kind of learn your balance, the better. A beach break, you get like 3 seconds to pop up and then you're off. So,
right.
And then, Keanu did some actual, I'm not sure, they used a crane rig to fake a lot of the skydiving scenes, especially when they had dialogue. And at one point in time, the Mythbusters did an episode to see, could you really have a conversation while skydiving? And it is impossible.
It is impossible.
All this great dialogue while they're skydiving in the movie.
Impossible.
Could never happen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, this movie has a certain magic to it.
Yeah, it really does.
Suspend your disbelief about certain things in the movie. Because if you really kind of break down the elements of like, is this realistic? Is this how the FBI works?
Right.
Why couldn't he grab the gun in the bedroom or come up with an excuse like, oh, I just got to grab one more thing?
Yeah.
And then the whole like skydiving, physics is out there. But Swayze was an experienced skydiver, and so we do actually see him in some of those scenes skydiving. And then the actors that were in Swayze's crew, and I think the other Nazi surfers, those are either real surfers or guys that were actors that were surfers, or so they already had surfing experience and didn't need to be trained. So Bigelow was going for as much realism as possible,
right? And
she wanted the actors to do as many stunts as possible.
Yeah, but none of the surfing. None of it, dude. Like all those scenes.
Swayze, we do see Swayze like actually on the surfboard, like he did some of those surf riding things. Yeah,
maybe a couple.
Yeah,
because like when you see the stunt guys, you're like, oh, that's not Keanu. That's not Swayze.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So Bodhisattva.
Okay.
Bodhisattva is a person who is on the path towards Bodhi, awakening, or
that's what its name.
Buddhahood.
Right.
So the English term enlightenment is.
That's what I was going to make. So Bodhi means awake. So this Cody is the woke movie.
Right. It's it's the most woke.
This movie is about being woke.
So the English term enlightenment is the Western translation of the various Buddhist terms, most notably Bodhi and Vimutti. The abstract noun Buddhi means the knowledge or wisdom or awakened intellect of a Buddha. The verb root bud means to awaken, and its literal meaning is closer to awakening. Although the term Buddhi is also used in other Indian philosophies and traditions, its most common usage is the context of Buddhism. Yeah, so the term enlightenment. Okay, So love that aspect.
He's
of the
the
story.
enlightened one.
Yeah, I love that aspect of the story. I love that element of his character because only Patrick Swayze could have played that.
For sure.
I mean, the integrity of Patrick Swayze, like this, and obviously we'll get into the plot, but the way that Patrick Swayze's acting added to the character, but also just the character itself. I don't think I've seen in a movie a tough guy like Bodhi be able to let things go like the two things he let go when Johnny Utah came into the mix. Mm-hmm. Bodhi is introduced to Johnny Utah from his ex-girlfriend. What's her face? What's her name again?
Tyler?
Tyler, yeah. And like realizes, oh, they're a thing. And before he gets, he doesn't even get jealous. Like he doesn't get jealous at all. He just lets it go. And then they play football, and he knows Johnny Utah is a great football player. He was the only one that knew. And so he's running, and he wants to beat Johnny Utah in this race right to the end zone.
Right.
Johnny Utah tackles him into the ocean, and everybody gets upset except Bodhi. Bodhi's like, hey, miss fair play. So like,
you don't know who this is?
Within
Johnny
like,
Utah.
Yeah, this is the man, Ohio State, Rose Bowl.
He won the championship.
So within like 2 to 3 minutes, you see the Bodhi character, a masculine, very dominant character, let two things go that most men in life struggle with letting go, but also in this story, in most stories, would not be so easily, would not let go of so easily. Right? The stereotypical way of writing this would be create tension between these two over the girl and then over the athletic game of masculinity. But not at all. Not with Bodhi, because he's on the path, man. He's on the path of enlightenment.
But he's all about like taking it to the edge and beyond. And so this is one of the ways that he seduces Keanu's character.
Yeah.
Because it really like sucks him in of like, oh, this guy is like special and doesn't behave like a normal antagonistic dude, even though he is like the antagonizer of the movie or the antagonist, right?
Yeah.
This is like one of those the movie has a lot of tropes, and this is one of the stereotypical like, the boys are playing football and stuff. But we do see, Tyler is playing football. She's like tough gal out there playing like some, they kind of light tackle, football with the guys and succeeding. So it's kind of cool to see that. I was totally in love with this character.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. The haircut too, like the short haircut.
Yeah.
Tough personality. Loved it. This is the wokest but anti-woke female character.
Right, exactly. I guess, yeah. Well, it's because woke doesn't really have became a very nebulous term. It's
Well, at no point was this lady try to like. She's not written in a way that undermines all the male characters.
Or like she's not a victim, even though her parents, died. She's like a very tough survivor, and it's very interesting because Keanu originally goes out, or Johnny Utah goes out and tries to learn to surf and completely fails.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is also another stereotypical trope of like the hero has to be like broken down so he can be built up, and then Utah has many mentors, like 3 different mentors in the movie. And she's one of his mentors that trains him to surf. And so you see this, reversal of roles of like this tiny woman that is like the boss in charge and is teaching him how to surf. And she's like, do you agree to do what I say when I say it? Like, so it's like, give me complete control over this situation, my way or the highway. And like, when I say jump, you jump. How high? And which we don't see with a lot of female characters, especially like that female male relationship. And then they do get into a romantic relationship, which is very different because usually the guy is the expert, the guy in control of like his domain, but she's very much in like a master of the domain that he's trying to infiltrate.
Yeah.
And so that is a very fresh and different dynamic that we see in this movie. That's one of the things that makes this movie different and magical and interesting, because he is very much. The movie has a lot of different sort of angles because it's like cops and robbers, and then we have the buddy cop relationship, we have the romantic relationship, and we have the bromance, and he's seduced by the criminals that he's trying to infiltrate and gets too caught up in that world, and it changes him, which we see in some other movies. But at the time, like surfing does have this whole mystical quality to it, like it's the source. And this kid in the surf shop says like, "Oh, this will change your life." Right. And so it's kind of like that another character you see in a lot of movies of just the one line that the hero gets advice from this random person that's the unlikely person to give him advice that really kind of just puts a nail on the head of, oh yeah, this is going to happen, like make a prediction. And of course the hero sort of like says, yeah, right, usually to whoever this person gives him, like, beware the fuzzy bunny. What are you talking about? And,
exactly.
So
all right, man, well, let's get into the plot. And I feel like this Wikipedia plot is like a little simplified, so I'm going to say the first paragraph, and then we'll expand on it. All right. Former Ohio State quarterback and rookie FBI agent Johnny Utah assists experienced agent Angelo Pappas, which is Gary Busey, in investigating a string of bank robberies by the ex-presidents, a gang of robbers who wear rubber masks of Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, and Lyndon B. Johnson. Rather than robbing the vault, they only demand the cash the tellers have in their drawers and are gone within 90 seconds. So, that's kind of like a short explanation of the story. Movie starts out with Johnny Utah flying into L.A.
Right. Well, he has just got out of the academy. We see he's a cracked shot. He's going through the last shooting training thing. So right away we're exposing to violence and guns and masculine stuff. And he's sold as like this perfect, very clean cut, straight edge guy that is the top 2% of his class. So
dude,
he's kind of this perfect new agent, shot quarterback.
I didn't realize until just now the opening sequence of surfing in the rain. I think he's surfing in the rain. Bodie, somebody's surfing in the rain, right. And then Keanu is training in the rain, right?
I think it's just in the day. It's in the daylight. So there's a juxtaposition between.
It's not. He's like soaking wet.
It's not?
No, he's soaking wet and he's training.
Oh, is he?
He's going through that thing. Mm-hmm. That's the last scene of the movie.
Right.
They're in the rain fighting. Right?
Well, I saw it as the, you see this very peaceful, the surfing is like man and fusing with nature, like man and nature as one. And then it's juxtaposed with a man and a gun.
For sure.
Which is like violence and chaos. And like, it's two very different activities.
Right. All I'm saying is like it was raining in the very beginning scene, and then it was raining in the last scene, and they were on at the beach. Yeah. So I didn't even think about that until the end, or just now. Okay, so he flies in. He lands in L.A. Right. He meets the sergeant or whatever, that guy.
The captain, the commander of this FBI office, who's a very stereotypical, like hard-nosed. I think he's a pencil neck. I'm not sure exactly what pencil neck is, but he's like very strict and like a bean counter. He's like, everything's got to be by the book.
Sure.
And just kind of an asshole, but he's just going to push everybody around, and it's I'm not sure how to exactly really describe that character, but we see a lot of these very one-dimensional guys that serve as a way to it unites Johnny Utah and
Pappas.
Gary Busey's character, because they have like Pappas, they have like a common enemy right away that they both don't like this boss. And so that's one of the things that they kind of are able to bond over.
Yeah.
And we see Keanu Reeves is sort of pretending to go along with this guy, but he knows he's like bullshit.
Right.
And
takes the donut.
Yeah, and it's John McGinty is great at these parts. And of course, he's younger than Gary Busey, and of course, like there's a lot of lines that Gary Busey spouts off about like how he's been in the bureau for a long time, and respect your elders. And I was in the bureau when you were, jacking off to the Sears catalog and popping zits on your funny face.
Right.
So
there was a good moment where Keanu Reeves comes into the office, and the sergeant is there, and he's telling him, "Hey, I demand my men to be in peak physical conditioning, blah, blah. What do you eat?" He was talking about diet and exercise and stuff like that.
Right.
And then Keanu just pulls that donut out. He's like, "I like these." Kind of like, I'm not gonna be bullied by you.
Right. Well, he tells him, I'm not gonna dance to your tune. But he tells him right before that, like, I take the skin off a chicken, sir.
Right.
So
yeah,
he's gonna tell the guy what he wants to hear, but he's gonna do what he wants to do. So even though he's like this clean cut guy, he's still gonna do his own thing.
Right.
And
then he meets Gary Busey.
Right. So when they get to the part, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the relationship between those two is like Gary Busey's kind of a cynical guy. He's an oddball, and he has this crazy theory that like these bank robbers are surfers, and nobody else in the bureau gives any credence or weight to this theory.
Because when they robbed that first bank, actually, just the whole meeting between Keanu Reeves and Gary Busey, you could tell that was probably Gary Busey thinking, let me spice this up. Let me put the blindfold on and act like I don't know who's who's talking.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
So good.
He's like bad mouth. I got this young punk asshole shot hot, quarterback, and Keanu's character Utah plays along with it. It's like, yeah, that guy's a douche.
And then they meet each other. Gary's cool. He just shakes his hand, and then he jumps off like only Gary Busey would.
Right.
Jumps off the backboard.
And it's like they're not going to let like insults or just offhand comments like affect them. Everyone talks shit. Big deal. Like again, letting it go.
Right.
Like
letting it go. Bodie style.
That ability to like not hold a grudge over petty shit.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing we all should strive for.
Yeah. Yeah. And dudes typically can do that way better than women.
Maybe I wouldn't know
in this movie. Definitely in this movie.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I think that's the maybe the one failing in this movie is we do have a really strong female character, but we don't see her interact with other women or like a typical woman just to have that contrast.
Yeah. And
so in this movie, like if you just saw this movie and didn't see anything else, like you would be like, oh, that's how a woman is, like normal. She's a normal woman, like, and
you'd be dead wrong.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. So I don't know how they would have fit that in just to like accentuate the fact that like, yeah, she's like super gal. Like, she is Tank Girl.
But dudes do let things go like that way more. And I think because of like physical confrontation.
Yeah.
Like,
but I do see a lot of
guys will play games.
It's funny because
and like sports or whatever, and kind of like, kind of work that frustration out. And a lot of girls don't do that. Most girls.
Well, it's funny because, I do play golf, and I'm on the golf course, and it is like this very idyllic, peaceful, like not macho. I mean, golf is just like the least macho sport, in my opinion. It's like the sport for nerds, but I love it. But it is, there's like a lot of social status involved in it. So you do see these sort of like because there's a lot of etiquette. And so someone will sort of like break etiquette either by accident or on purpose because they're like, oh, my convenience is more important than yours, or whatever the thing is. And like people will get into like these very, very heated arguments on the golf course, and almost like it'll sometimes come to blows or whatever. And I've been there myself, like where I like, you take offense over what somebody said, and they take offense over yours, and it blows up into this big like heated like argument over nothing really. Like it's like we're playing golf, like get over it. This is not serious, or this serious. It shouldn't come to like such animosity, but you feel like, oh, I want to kill that guy because of what he said or whatever. Like how dare he? Like
right.
And this is just like a golf course. Like we're not professionals, and this is. But that those things do happen because golf can be incredibly frustrating, and then somebody says, so you're already in this really frustrated state, and then someone says something like, "You're playing slow," or "Get out of the way," or "Hurry up," or "How something to that thing of where you've overstepped your bounds and you're not you've crossed some sort of etiquette line or whatever.
Right.
And but that's sort of the great thing about golf is like it reveals character. It doesn't that's what they say. It's like golf doesn't build character, it reveals character. So it's about like how you behave like when you're frustrated.
Oh yeah.
Golf never goes. It's also all about your like expectations. And it's like if you have and even if you go into the round without expectations, that which is the best way to go into the round, but then you start playing well, and then that will build into expectations of like, oh, I've parred the first 5 holes. Well, I'm going to par all of these holes, and then you double bogey a hole. It's like, oh, I'm super frustrated now because I now have these expectations. But then you're in that state, and if you're playing with somebody or come across somebody that's like also frustrated or they're just an asshole, then like things get really, really heated. And it's very hard to let it go.
Right.
And I've seen it. I've been playing golf for many years, and so it's like these guys that are not in this kind of violent situation of bank robbing and army and military. It's like we're in the most removed from that. Get in like start butting heads.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to pay, because they're just you get your blood is up and you get angry and stuff. And so I mean eventually it doesn't usually it doesn't explode, but it leaves everyone like really angry, and it's like that's the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. So I do see a lot of guys that like don't let it go, or at least you remember those instances.
Right.
But these guys are in like very heavy situations, and they just kind of let it go, and that's what allows them to operate in.
Right.
Because if you were a high-strung person or take offense to a lot of stuff, and you're in this world of FBI and bank robbing and stuff, like you would probably like just get in a knife fight or a gunfight and get killed. Like you'd already be dead.
Yeah.
Or have murdered enough people to be so like wanted by the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could,
Yeah. So back to the plot. So they watch the footage of the first bank robbery, right? Or just the first one that Johnny Utah has seen. They've robbed like 30 banks and never been caught because they just take the cash from the tellers, never go in the bank vault, which takes more time, and they're just out. So
they're very disciplined.
Yeah, very disciplined.
They have that code, just like De Niro and Heat.
Yeah, exactly. So discipline is a common theme amongst these male-driven, action movies that we've been watching.
Well, it's very interesting to say, like the surfing code that Bodhi has is all about being free and being, awake and being in tune with the environment, and that's their motivation for robbing the banks. Is not a greedy, greed. It's to finance their never-ending summer.
Right.
And so I don't think they're not out to kill anyone either. Like they do, Patrick Swayze says it's like your basic, like, that's the interesting thing. And he does say like, it's your basic, like dog versus dog mentality. Like you can't show fear, whoever's like the most confident will make the other person back down. And so that's how he avoids like having to shoot someone, is he's just behaves so in such an intimidating manner that no one is in confident manner that no one is going to cross him.
Right.
And they do it very quickly and efficiently. But usually the stereotypical like surfer is like the stoner that has like works at the the shrimp fry joint like Lori Petty does, and isn't very driven, would it be this organized or disciplined to rob banks? And surfing's not that expensive. I don't think so. But they're flying all around the world and they're having parties, so they're funding their extravagant lifestyle of skydiving and other things, and that's why they rob these banks. But it's not out of greed. It's for this code to beat this. It's us against the system, and the system that kills the human spirit, and that's how Bodhi is maintaining his leadership over this group, because he has convinced all these other guys that they're pursuing this higher enlightenment by not living by the rules. So it's like this contradiction between one, not living by the rules, but also be disciplined and organized enough to rob banks and get away with it.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a rare combination. For
right.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then in the footage, one guy moons the people in there, pulls his pants down.
I think we actually see his actual asshole just for a second.
We rewind. I said, babe, did they just show his asshole?
His asshole?
And I rewound it, and it was like, yep, that's all asshole. I was like, I wonder if that was really the actor or they got an asshole model. You know what I mean?
Stunt ass, yeah.
A stunt ass.
Asshole, yeah.
Not just the ass,
Definitely
but a stunt whole asshole. Yeah. A stunt asshole.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Not an asshole stunt man, but a stunt man asshole.
So they see the footage. And then they find they're told the car is up in Laurel Canyon, Mulholland Drive, or wherever on the hills.
Yeah, we found the car ditched. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go up there. They check it out.
Volunteers. Gary Busey's like, "Why are we doing that? It's a dead end.
Right.
We'll be out there all night."
And then they go up.
So that's the scene where they really bond, because Gary Busey's sort of the cynic, and he's been in the force forever, so he's lost his drive. No one listens to them. He's sort of accepted this role of that I'm going to be dismissed. I have theories, I know what I'm doing, but everyone is thinks I'm over the hill. And then we take Johnny Utah, who's the idyllic gung ho new guy, and he infuses Busey's character with his enthusiasm. He's like, "You mad? Let's go, use that. Let's go get these guys." He has the drive, and Gary Busey has the knowledge, and so they're able to have that perfect synergy of young and old, the wisdom and the excellence and the drive and the energy of the young guy to form this perfect two-man team that's going to crack this case. And
Gary Busey suggests, I think they're surfers because of that dark tan line on that ass
and the sex wax. We found this cut substance on the.
We found one strand of hair.
Bank teller, right?
One strand of hair.
A strand of hair.
And it had chemicals related to the ocean.
Right. So they go around collecting hair and
at certain oceans.
Break.
Yeah.
Again, which break are these surfers surfing? Because they're territorial, and so we find we match the chemicals. We know which beach they surf. So
right, exactly.
Gary Busey says, "You got to learn to surf, kid. It's not going to be me out on that surfboard." They're very territorial and tight. So unless you're out there, you can't just carry around a surfboard on the beach and talk to people. You got to be out there in the waves and become one of them,
right?
And really adopt this thing.
So he goes out there.
It's a very
makes a fool.
FBI tactic.
Exactly. He makes a fool of himself, and then Tyler Ann Endicott, that's her name. So Tyler kind of saves him, and he's like, hey, I gotta, they do research on her. They find out that she has had both of her parents, I think they died.
In a plane crash or something,
So he fabricates a family tragedy to persuade the orphan surfer, Tyler, to teach him how to surf.
So he's a horrible liar, and this lie is going to come out and bite him in the ass.
So bad. It was such a bad lie.
It's kind of the most egregious lie to make up that my parents died too, and they're both alive, and take advantage of that tragedy of this person, and she's innocent, she doesn't deserve to be lied to and manipulated like this.
And you see Keanu really trying to stretch. you know, his acting chops, especially when he got mad at Gary Busey. He's like, yeah, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, you're like seeing like shades of Bill and Ted and future
But
John
then
Wick.
again, you know, as Keanu is trying to tell this fake story Utah is trying to tell this story to Tyler. You got to remember, Keanu is playing an FBI agent who is then acting like, you know, a person. So it is more plausible that this
because FBI agents are not people.
Isn't quite acted as well as you know, a person that really believes this story is true, or this, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
So he's not supposed to be the greatest actor, but you are undercover, so got to act a little bit.
Right. But the stakes are high. This is like the undercover, like when you're a spy or undercover agent, like if you don't act correctly, you're going to get killed.
Right.
So they may be even better actors in real life than actual actors. Cause,
they could be.
You know, different stakes, higher stakes.
All right. So then they go out surfing. They start getting along, and then all of a sudden Bodie comes up and and they meet, and he like picks her up. He's like, "Hey, babe," and kisses her on the cheek or the lips, or I don't know. And she's like, "Hey, blah blah blah." And
put me down.
Yeah. So you automatically get this like understanding of their past relationship, and then what type of guy Bodie is, because he hasn't tied her down in any way. You know what I mean? He hasn't made it official. He's not possessive. He lets it go.
He does say at the end, like, you know, it's like, you don't understand, man. Tyler was my woman. And, you know, so, yeah, I mean, he's trying to convince Keanu that he's not a bad guy, even though he's told his psycho friend to kill Tyler if he doesn't come back. But he's saying, like, we're both in the same boat here. Like, we want to save her life. Yeah. And we've got to work together to do that.
Right.
So he is like, I had really feelings for her, you know.
And then the group are initially weary of Utah, but accept him when Bodie recognizes him as a former college football star who quit the sport due to a knee injury. So that's when they're playing football on the beach, and then they
have that conversation where everyone's like, "Hey, man, isn't that over the line?
Right?
You tackled him into the waves."
And
like
Bodie's like,
playing,
"Whoa,
like football.
Relax,
no,
man.
This is Johnny Utah. He's Ohio State Buckeyes, won the championship. Whatever happened to you, man? Like, blew out my knee, so I went into law school. Oh, you're a lawyer? Lawyers don't surf. Well, this one." And Bodie says, or is it Bodie or Taylor says, "Well, this one does." Yeah, Bodie says, "This one does.
This one does."
Yeah, this one does.
Yeah, and as he masters, what's that?
Yeah, so he's like accepting of that. Like he's not an outsider. He's including us. And this is like the pacing in this movie is so great because it's like there's always there's action going on all the time. You know, between action scene, dialogue, you know, and we can use the surfing for action when we can't like justifiably do another gunfight or chase or something, or bank robbery. But yeah, the pacing of this movie is so quick, how it's like we just like establish all these facts of, you know, Keanu gets out of school, he's in LA, he meets the boss, he meets his partner, they rob a bank. Then, you know, he surfs, and then he meets these guys, and then there's another bank robbery, and then there's a stakeout, and so all these things, like he meets this girl like right away, they're in love. The next, you know,
it's not drawn out.
It's like, when does this happen? Like, when do you going out? Like the first time I'm like surfing, I get rescued by a hot babe, and you know, then I track her down, and we're dating. Like, boom. Like,
exactly. As he masters surfing, Utah finds himself increasingly drawn to the surfer's adrenaline-charged lifestyle, Bodie's philosophies, and Tyler. Following a clue retrieved by analyzing toxins found in the hair of one of the bank robbers, Utah and Pappas lead an FBI raid on another gang of surfers. So that all started because Keanu's out there, or Utah is out there swimming or surfing. And he catches a wave that another surfer was on. Yeah. And the other
like, get off my wave.
Yeah. The territorial surfer thing comes into play. And he punches Utah in the water. And Utah takes it and kind of like, you know, he cuts his line. Cuts his leash. Yeah, and
says,
what's he say?
"Go back to the valley, yuppie."
Yeah, exactly. Great line.
Like that.
And
so
And then he takes a shower
yeah.
while Pappas is watching everything with his binoculars, right? And they got a radio, walkie-talkie. Yeah. So Keanu's taking a shower, and that surfer, comes up with his crew. The lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right, Anthony Kiedis, who apparently didn't show up to the training session the day before where they were going to like block out the fight. And so his character gets knocked out immediately because the stunt coordinator is like, well, that's all you can do because everyone else has sort of been choreographed. And you're just going to get punched and go down.
Right. And then I think it was like 4 guys total or something like that. And
4 guys.
And then Keanu starts fighting them. And then Bodie comes out of nowhere to help him. Right. And Gary Busey is like, he can't get him on the radio. He was like, what the hell's going on? So he's running towards. Yeah, you can't see him either.
But he sees one of the guys get like knocked past the bush. So he's like, oh, there's something going on. So he's racing down there to like help out.
Yeah. And then by the time so Bodie shows up and he knows those guys. But the guys still want to fight. So Bodie and Utah fight them off. And then they walk off, and it was a great scene with Gary Busey showing up, and he was like, "Oh God," and he was like, "Oh shit, I got to come up with a story because I'm so surprised to see Johnny Utah." And Bodie's right there.
Blow his cover, yeah.
And what does he say? Something about a kid. Have you guys seen a kid about this big?
Yeah, you see the kid took my car stereo. It's about this high. And this, gives a description, and then Bodie says, I don't know, man, but you might want to check out those guys back there. They're the suspect or something.
He's like, oh, thanks, man.
No, Keanu does. Keanu says, you might want to check out those guys, which is, I think, maybe just like a coded way to tell Gary Busey, like, those guys are, or the guys that, beat me up or cause trouble, watch out for them.
Sure.
But Bodie doesn't understand this is like coded and says, oh, you love starting shit, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So that was really cool. Okay, so
we
then
see the experience of Gary Busey's character able to like pivot real quick, doesn't blow Utah's cover. But that's the interesting thing, because Utah's cover is blown because they know his real identity. They don't know he's an FBI agent, but they know his real name.
Yeah,
they know he's like a famous quarterback. He's trying to go undercover. But there's a plausibility to this backstory.
Yep.
And I guess they say in the spycraft, like, don't make a lie when the truth will do. And the closer you are to your own story, like the less work you have to do, like making up lies, because then every lie has to become true.
Right.
And so it works out,
Yeah.
it's a very plausible backstory.
Yeah.
It takes less work to maintain that identity, because it is his identity. He's just the same guy that didn't join the FBI.
Absolutely. And so they start focusing on this gang of surfers, and then they raid their house, resulting in 2 randomly naked women fighting.
There's one in a thong.
One in a thong.
And
one in the shower.
I forget what her name is, but there's a naked blonde girl in the shower.
Yeah.
Who actually starred in another movie with Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse. So she is the girl that's like the trophy girlfriend of the bad guy at Roadhouse.
Okay.
And her character's name is listed as Freight Train.
Wow.
That's her character's name, is Freight Train. Which is, so I don't know what that signifies, but we can guess.
We can guess.
And then the kid that tells Keanu the surfing is the source, his character's name is 15, because I guess he's a 15-year-old kid, although he looks younger. But that character's name. So some of these characters that just pop up have like not real names, but they're just like code names that they put in the script because they're never mentioned, but we have to refer to this character as something. So this girl that beats the shit out of Keanu Reeves is called Freight Train, who's like a hot naked blonde girl.
Yeah. Any chick that's going to fight naked immediately becomes hot.
Well, any chick that's naked becomes hot.
Oh, that's how that works? Yeah, that's right. I think
so, yeah. That usually works for me.
Yeah, exactly. Then, all right, so the raid inadvertently ruins a DEA undercover operation.
Tom Sizemore.
And
he's not credited in this movie for some reason.
He's not even credited?
No, he's not credited in the credits. Some reason. Don't know.
Wow. Very
maybe
interesting.
Maybe it's a SAG thing, or maybe he didn't like his performance. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. As those surfers were wanted for separate charges regarding drug dealing, but they are determined not to be the ex-presidents.
Right.
So
they're just Nazi assholes that deal crystal meth.
Yeah, exactly. Watching Bodie,
and it's
go ahead.
But this is really cool because we get to see the juxtaposition between Bodie's crew, who is like disciplined and the disciplined, enlightened criminal.
Yeah.
And this crew of Nazi assholes that are undisciplined, unenlightened, that are just, their motivation is fucking crime and being evil.
Right.
Being evil bastards. So we get to kind of like get that comparison between the two, which makes, you know, Bodie's character is like, he's a very likable bad guy.
Yeah.
Because he does have this like enlightened code. And, you know, Johnny Utah is like seduced three ways. He's seduced by surfing, he's seduced by Bodie's code, and he's seduced by Tyler. So it's a triple seduction. Triple seduction.
That's right. All right. Bodie.
That's what gets him in so deep.
So deep. Watching Bodie's group surfing, Utah begins to suspect that they are the ex-presidents, noting how close a group they are and the way one of them moons other surfers in the same manner one of the robbers does when leaving a bank.
Yes, I recognize that ass.
Yeah.
Tyler's like, looks like you've seen a ghost. And he's like, yeah, a ghost ass.
A ghost ass. You never understand. But yeah, it's a very fascinating way to pin the robbers, you know?
Right.
It's just interesting.
Making that realization, that awakening moment that he has.
Yes. But yeah, that's what makes
he's an ass, he becomes awake.
Yeah. But like that's a unique part of the story of this, you know, the way they wrote this story. It was like, okay, how do you make this a little different than other bank robbing movies or, you know, catching bad guy movies? It's like, the ass thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. Just you know, it's just a little nuance there. Because these movies, there's so many stories, you know. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, you know, I watch so many movies, and especially in modern movies, like I can tell when certain dialogue is going to be said. You know, at that moment where everybody's getting together and they're like, you know, they look at each other like, we're going to do this together. You know, just something corny. It's like, oh God, this is that moment. And it's like, what you want to do is just tweak it just a little bit to make it a little different for your story. You know what I mean? And they did this with a full-fledged asshole.
Right.
So, good for them.
An untanned butt. It was a ghost ass because it's like white. It doesn't. It's the moon. Yeah.
Literally the moon. Utah and Pappas stake out at a bank, and the ex-presidents appear. That was a great scene. I remember when you were telling me about this.
It's the best scene ever.
Give me two.
So it was really funny because I've seen this movie a few times, and like that scene and that line of Utah, get me two, always like stayed in my mind like more than any other line in this movie. It's so memorable, and people would ask, you would see different things on Facebook, or people would ask me like, "What's your favorite line in all of cinema?" And I would be like, Utah, get me too.
Yeah.
And then like recently I've seen it like on t-shirts, like people are selling t-shirts with Utah, get me too. Even though this movie is like it's old and it's been remade, like other people have sort of glommed onto this Utah, get me two line. And it is so weird and unique in film that this kind of, that has entered like the public consciousness, or at least, you know, movie fans. Remember, it's so memorable, even though it has nothing to do with the plot of the movie. But Gary Busey, he says, they're on this stakeout, they're staking out this bank, and he's like, I'm so hungry I could eat the ass end out of a dead rhino. Let's get some lunch. And then Utah's like, it's 10:30 in the morning. And he's like, there's a place around the corner that has the best meatball sandwiches. Get me two of those and a soda or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right. And he walks away from the car, and then he sticks his head out the window. He's like, Utah, get me 2. It's really important that he get 2 of these meatball sandwiches.
Yeah.
And then when
it's almost like
ordering the sandwiches,
it's almost like he forgot something. The way that because Gary gets back to reading that thing, and then he's like, "Oh, Utah, give me 2." It's like, hey, if you got anything out of that, remember this: the 2-part.
Right. This is important. And he's reading a Calvin and Hobbes. He's like, ha, 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 I love this Calvin and Hobbes. He's reading like the comics section out of the newspaper because he's a quirky guy.
Yeah.
And they've let their guard down. Like Keanu's ordering these meatball sandwiches. His back's to the bank. We see the dead presidents drive up in the car and get out of the car
Great shot.
Go into the bank. And both of them completely don't see it because Pappas is reading the comics and Gary Busey and Utah is ordering the meatball sandwiches.
Yep.
He brings the meatball sandwiches back. Pappas starts going into the meatball sandwiches. He's like, shit, these things are good. I should have had you get me 3. 2 wasn't enough. I should have had you get me 3 of these things.
Yeah.
So, and this is great. This is great. So if you're about to pursue a gang of violent bank robbers, it's very important to have the energy of 3 meatball sandwiches in your stomach.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why they got away. He didn't get all 3 of them down.
Right. Yeah. Well, 2 wasn't enough to give him the fortitude to chase these guys down.
Exactly. And so they realize.
There's a great chase scene here. Yeah.
And then
the car chase and the foot chase.
And
where
Bodie.
they run through all these houses.
So Bodie's always a Ronald Reagan mask. And when Utah's like, freeze, one of the ex-presidents points a gun at Johnny Utah, and Bodie knocks the gun down, saying, "Don't shoot."
Right.
Gets in the car, they drive off, and then Utah chases them on foot.
Right.
Literally
it's a great foot chase.
Literally chases them from the start. Chases a car on foot. Ballsy.
Yeah.
Just ballsy. That doesn't turn around 10 feet to get in the car with Gary Busey.
Yeah. Isn't there like a scene where they pull the car up to a gas station and then Bodie
that happens right after this. So Johnny Utah blows out the back window, I think, of the car. Is that right?
Yeah. Possibly.
And then they drive. Anyways, they drive off. They go to they're getting chased, right? No, hold on. He does get in the car. What am I talking about? He gets in the car, and they're chasing him, right? And then they go through that booth, right, with the spikes, right?
Yeah.
And so Gary Busey's car is down, and they have to get out and chase them. And the ex-presidents drive their car a little bit further to go into like a mechanic shop, a gas station. And they switch cars. They find another car. And Bodie grabs the nozzle, the gasoline nozzle, and lights it and burns their vehicle.
Right.
As he's burning their vehicle.
Just like they did in Heat when they blew up their vehicle.
Yeah.
Fingerprints.
Yeah. And so as he's doing that, the other guys are in another car. Gary Busey shows up, shoots the windows out of that car.
Right.
And then Johnny Utah comes out of nowhere and tackles Bodie, and they start rolling around in fiery gasoline. And then so the guys in the car drive off, and Gary Busey, I guess, just stops chasing them. And now the chase scene is between Bodie and Johnny Utah running through the back neighborhoods of L.A.
Right. And they basically rigged like a specific camera to get this shot. So they had to like take the stabilizer off a Steadicam, but then put it on some other camera that doesn't like have a viewfinder. So they made a little circle out of wire so you could tell like, somewhat of like what's in, the camera operator could see somewhat what's in frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like a sort of jury rig to be able to follow these guys through houses, over fences, through, this really like tight environment. It's just like a parkour kind of deal. And then Bodie throws a pit bull at Keanu.
So there's a couple things that go on right there. So Bodie runs into the house first, shuts the sliding door and locks it. Right? Keanu sees that, and he just grabs something, I think.
Yeah, chair or something. Yeah.
Throws it, and then falls into the window with it. But the way he fell on the inside and hit that table, and that table just like flipped up, and he was kind of like teetering on it, that was a great stunt. That's something that definitely I don't think was planned, but the way his body hit the table made it lift that way, and they're like, we gotta take that. We gotta keep that.
Right.
That take is the one. So that was like, it's kind of like an accidental, amazing stunt.
Right. Yeah.
And so then he gets up, runs out the back. Well, actually, the woman in the house starts beating him with a vacuum or something.
Yeah.
Or broom.
Or something. Yeah.
It's like, get out of my house. And he gets up and runs out the back, and Bodie's waiting there, picks up a pit bull, and chunks it at Johnny Utah. Okay? Then, this is the best part. Johnny Utah punts the pit bull.
Yeah, he kicks that dog.
He kicks it. We were laughing so hard. What a football move. Pit bull, I'll punt it.
Punt it, yeah.
And you could tell that dog, I mean, obviously it was a fake dog. But that's totally unnecessary, but such a good shot. Punting a dog.
Well, yeah, you're just your character is so frantic in that scene of like, I got to get this guy and nothing's going to get in my way, and I'm just like reacting.
I'm going to punt a 50-pound pit bull.
An 80-pound pit bull.
Yeah. I mean, imagine trying to kick a 45-pound plate at the gym.
Yeah. Well, at least it's like soft. It's like a 45-pound sandbag, you know.
Right. But it ain't going nowhere. So, anyways, he chases him. And then how does that chase scene end? I can't remember.
So I think they climb over a wall or something, and
that's right.
Cody jumps off, but Utah blows out his knee jumping off of something.
They're in that classic LA basin, water basin. What is it called?
Your culvert.
Yeah, I don't know.
Culvert, I think. Yeah.
That's been used in so many movies, right? That have been filmed in LA. Drive.
Yeah, different.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah. Dude, that's another movie we got to watch. Drive.
Live and Die in L.A.
They used it there too?
And Terminator 2.
Dang. Oh, I was thinking about that. We got to watch that movie. Terminator 2. Talk about a strong female lead.
Well, Live and Die in L.A., like that is another really, I think is that also Michael Mann, but it's earlier, but the same cops undercover and some great chase scenes and some really great character work and seduction by evil and all that. Right. Getting too deep into undercover. And so after this, Utah has a chance to shoot Bodie, and we kind of wonder. Well, he knows it's Bodie, and Bodie knows it's him, even though that he can't see his face. And Bodie has already like spared Utah's life. Because he tells his friend not to shoot him. And so Utah has a chance to shoot Bodie, but doesn't, fires his gun in the air in frustration, or maybe just to make it look like he tried to shoot him, but he missed. But, they have the scene with Utah and Pappas in the end, and Pappas is like, you have a chance to shoot, the criminal, you don't miss. And he's both telling him like, don't miss. But I think he knows, like, you're a crack shot. Like, you're not going to miss a shot. You missed that shot on purpose, or you didn't fire.
Right.
And he's like, you're either scared or you're in too deep. And I know you're not scared.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So then Tyler discovers Utah's FBI badge in bed.
Well, he's Utah is all beat up. Pappas says, go home.
Right.
Maybe, we may have lost these guys. Like, you let him go. So go home. And then Tyler is like nursing his wounds. And it's like kind of very fake looking blood. And, Utah says, I was in a car wreck. It was a hit and run. She's like, what does the other guy look like?
Yeah.
And, Utah like wants to tell her the truth because he kind of thinks maybe this is over. And I'm in too deep, and I really love you. And she's like, why do men have such trouble talking about these things? And he's like, I'm going to tell you something that could really change our relationship about us, or something like that. And she says, shh, for another time,
right?
Which he repeats to her later.
And she's probably suspecting he's going to say, I love you.
Right. Like, let's get married or something. Let's move in together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's like, no, I'm actually undercover.
Right. And so then
he goes to sleep.
They do it. we see a great shot of Lori Petty's back. Ugh, so sexy. Like she's laying in bed. Just,
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
right?
she's on him.
At some point, maybe that's earlier in the movie, but
but his chest is there, and her arms are across him. That one.
Anyway, he goes to sleep, and then she wakes up. She's found his badge. She's like pointing the gun at him. Does she shoot?
She shoots the pillow, dude.
Yeah, she shoots a fucking pillow. Like, this girl's pissed off. Like, yeah.
Really over the top.
Yeah, don't date a girl that has guns, man.
Yeah. Or takes your gun.
Takes your gun, yeah.
Right.
It's an unsecured firearm, Cody. That is not FBI code to have that. Exactly. You're on an undercover op and you have a gun and badge. Like, yeah, he's sloppy.
Right.
He's slipping.
Yep. And shortly afterwards.
And so, yeah, he can't explain it, and she runs away, and he's like heartbroken. And then
shortly afterwards,
shows up.
Bodie coerces Utah into skydiving with the group. This was a strange thing. It kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Well,
because the guys were like, we got to get rid of this guy. And he was like, no, I know how to deal with this guy.
Right. Well, one guy, this is an interesting scene because one of the guys in the crew that's in the bank robber crew says, this is too hot. We should just get out of here. This guy is onto us. We should just leave. And the character of Rosie, who's a psycho, who's not one of the ex-presidents, but he's like in the crew, says, you run, you die. He's like the enforcer. Like, he's a fucking psycho.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's kind of, he's doing what Bodie can't, basically. Bodie keeps this guy around because he's, a psycho that can do those violent things. And so even though Bodie's not willing to do these things himself, he has this enforcer with him that's going to, murder people if need be. But yeah, Bodie says like, yeah, I know what to do about this guy. We're going to, he's going to further seduce him and use him to get away as a hostage. He has a plan of which is it's a crazy plan. But yeah, he shows up to Utah's apartment and, convinces him to go skydiving. Utah, he gets all his shit together, and Utah tries to grab his gun, and he's like flailing for the gun. It's like almost out of reach, but he can't grab it in time because he's got to go. So that's the one thing in the movie that's like, what?
Right.
He could have gotten the gun.
And didn't he go to the door in just a towel?
He's not wearing a shirt, but I think he's like in pants or something.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I was like, dang, really? You can answer the door? You're an FBI agent? Undercover? You can answer the door, barely dressed? Not ready for action at all? Not looking for your gun?
Not checking to see who it is? Like, yeah.
So anyways.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah, so he takes him.
So
they go to the airport. Let's go skydiving, and Utah's suspicious of him, and obviously he doesn't think that he's getting the right backpack. So then he was like, then everybody starts fucking with him, like, oh, you should take my backpack. Oh, no, you should take my backpack, kind of a thing, like.
Right. No, you'd be better with something like this.
Yeah.
I think at one point I had watched that scene a few times to figure out like which backpack would suit, who packed his chute, because he's like, someone could, pack your chute wrong or not put a parachute in there and it doesn't deploy and then you die. So yeah, you'd be kind of wary about that. But I think they like pass it around so many times he gets the original pack that he had in the first place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
As far as I remember, I didn't check it this last watch through, but I think that's basically what happens.
So anyways, they go skydiving. Johnny Utah is loves it.
Oh my God, this is amazing. He totally forgets where he is, who these guys are.
Yep.
He gets lost in the experience of the skydiving.
Yep.
And forgets that these guys are bank robbers that tried to kill him.
Yeah. And then they land and they're talking, and Bodie's like, I got something to show you. Right. Takes him back to the back of the van, shows him the video of Rosie, right, holding Tyler hostage.
With a knife to her throat. She's got she's gagged, she's tied up in her nightie.
Yeah.
Or something.
And Bodie's reason, the lie why Rosie's doing that is what again?
So Swayze says, like, Rosie, he's like a machine. He's like, he goes to this place, man, where it's like, he's a psycho. He's trying to describe it. It's like, and I've told him that if I don't meet him at a certain time, at a certain place, like he will kill her. And you've got to help us. We were on the same goal. We're going to rob this bank and get to her, and you got to help him. And then Keanu Reeves says, "We're wasting time." Like,
dude.
So he's on board, and I think Bodhi says something like, "Yeah, right, we are." Like, sort of surprised that this guy like is wholeheartedly like agreed to this, accepted the situation so quickly.
Yeah,
and be like, "We're wasting time. We got to save her." So,
right.
He's not going to argue with him. It's like, okay, this is the deal. Okay, yeah, right, let's go.
And he's just kind of doing that for what?
Who? What do you?
Bodhi's creating this false scenario to get Johnny Utah to go into this bank robbery with him.
Yeah, I guess he wants to use him as a hostage, like in case the cops show up.
Right.
He can, use him as leverage. And because he knows if he has him hostage, like the FBI is less likely to be tracking him, because Johnny's the guy that's going to be, staking out the bank. So
right.
if he has him, he's not going to be able to contact the FBI or perform any more searches. So yeah. I mean, he's basically a hostage.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes more sense now. Why in the next scene when they do the bank robbery, right? Bodhi goes against his code. I guess he thinks maybe he could get by with it because he's got Johnny Utah, an FBI agent, with him. What do you think?
Yeah, this is kind of weird, and Utah does say, like, "You've broken your code. You're taking too long." And Bodhi says, "We're going in the vault,"
because it doesn't make sense when he does it.
Yeah, and the other guys say, "What? We never go in the vault."
Right.
So maybe it's just like, this is the last bank, like our cover is blown. This is the last bank robbery we're going to be able to pull off. So we're going to try to get as much as we can while we're here, because we probably won't be able to rob. They're on our case. We probably won't be able to rob a bank again, I guess. I mean, it is sort of uncharacteristic. He breaks his code, but this is another trope that we see in like Heat of him breaking his code at some point. I don't know. I think, just like how Utah can't grab his gun, we have to invent a reason for the bank robbery to go bad.
Right.
Right. Because if it's just sort of due to, it's a necessary thing due to the writing and structure of the movie that something has to go bad, so that the undercover cop, or the cop that just off-duty cop, has, pulls his gun and tries to shoots one of the guys in the crew. So Bodhi has to shoot him, and is like the only guy that Bodhi kills. And so it's like he broke his code of, breaking the vault. Then he has to commit violence and murder, which he's probably not had to do. He's been trying to avoid that because he's like this sympathetic, good criminal, or an ethical, moral criminal, right? But then he breaks his code. He pays the price because I think, one of the guys in the crew, he's like, "Come on, hold on, little brother." And so it's like, well, maybe he is like that guy, his younger brother. Because maybe it's just like a term of camaraderie and affection of calling, hey, brother. But if you start calling someone like little brother, like it might be his actual little brother. Like,
potentially,
younger brother. So we add some emotional stakes to the movie. So one of the guys gets shot, doesn't make it out of the bank.
Yeah.
But they knock Utah out.
Knocks him out, yep. And then defying their superior, who arrests Utah for the armed robbery, Pappas and Utah head to the airport where Bodhi, Roach, and Nathaniel are about to leave for Mexico. During a shoot,
so this is ridiculous, but it is, that they arrest Utah because, like, obviously he's been undercover, obviously he's been held hostage.
Yeah.
But probably Utah could say, "Oh, well, they have this girl hostage, and that's why I did it." But if he told them that, they would try to like arrest these guys, and the girl would die. Like, he's got to play these cards close to his chest, and Pappas is going to help him go do. Even though Pappas doesn't know what's going on, this is like the definition of like a perfect partner friend of like, I trust my guy and I'm going to help him out, even though I don't know what the situation is. I'm going to cover for him.
Yeah.
Right. And so, Pappas says to the guy, don't, put him in handcuffs in the front of the station like a common perp. Like, let me take him in, with some dignity.
Yeah.
And then, the hard ass boss, tries to chew him out. And then Pappas, gives his line like, I've been in the bureau since you were jerking off to the Sears catalog and popping zits on your funny face. And I've got one thing you don't have. And the boss is like, what's that? And then Pappas just like fucking cold cock sucker punches the dude, knocks him out. And he goes, respect for my elders, pure and simple. And then everyone just like, all right, let's him leave with Utah.
Yep.
Because the other two, there's the other two FBI guys who are like the lackeys, who are like the perfect like other guys. There's always the other two detectives that are just yes men for the boss and heckle the heroes.
Yeah.
And whatever, and also they are kind of little thorns in the side of the heroes and make them make fun of them and stuff. So Pappas in Utah. So Pappas gives Utah the handcuffs, like we signify, like that was just all a ruse. Pappas was in on it all the time, even though he didn't know what was going on. And Utah goes, yeah, they're at the Santa Monica airport. And Pappas goes, I knew you knew where they were going.
Yeah,
we got to get there. And then Utah says, yeah, but we can't shoot these guys. And he's like, what?
Right.
So they confront him at the airport. They're loading up again to make their escape at the Santa Monica airport.
Yeah.
Pappas is there. Utah comes in. He's like, I've got a gun on you right now. Where is this? Sees two of them. Nathaniel, the guy with the amazing Van Dyke, like the facial hair on this guy. So cool. And then is it like Roach or somebody is,
Roach
preparing, who gets the drop on Pappas, and there's a firefight ensues. And I think both Roach gets shot and is on his way out.
Mm-hmm.
Pappas gets shot. He dies. And so Utah gets on the plane with Bodie and the dying Roach and says, like, it's over, and, Bodie is not going to give up. We got to go, of course we got to go save Tyler. So that's what they do. So they get on the plane for yet another skydive.
Yeah.
Right. And, but this time Utah does not have a chute.
That's
and
right.
Bodie puts a chute on the almost dead Roach, I believe.
Yep.
Yep. And I think Nathaniel gets shot, the guy with the Van Dyke. They put a chute on the almost dead guy and pull it and throw him out. So, but he's dead on the ground. Utah unexpectedly, for some reason, Bodie has the gun on him when he jumps out of the plane, but then throws the gun into the plane, right? And at the time, this is the most powerful revolver on the market, by the way. Another movie fact that Bodie has this revolver that he's been using to the bank robbers. Super fucking huge hand kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess maybe he doesn't have a holster and he doesn't want to hold on to it like he's skydiving. So he's like, I don't need this anymore. He throws it back in the plane. So Utah is like, fuck it. He grabs the gun and jumps out of the plane without a chute, which is insane. And skydives to catch up with Bodie, grabs onto him, holds the gun on Bodie's head, and is like, pull the chute. And he's like, it's like, no, you pull it. Because they had this similar scene in the first skydive of like, who's going to be more macho and, who's going to chicken out first. It's kind of a game of chicken of like, who's going to pull the chute first, who's the bigger pussy, whatever.
Yep.
But Bodie says, well, you can't pull it because if you've got to hold on to the gun and you've got to hold on to me and you've got to drop the gun, right? If you're going to pull my chute and hold on to me. So that's what you're going to have to do because I'm committed. Like, I'm not going to let you take me in or shoot me. So, which is what forces Johnny. So Johnny has to throw the gun off so that he has one hand to hold on to this dude and pull the chute, which that's also pretty unbelievable that
Right.
you could hold on to somebody, and it's the most insane scene, but it's very it's super heightened,
Yeah.
like incredible, like this is superhero shit. Like,
Oh yeah.
So they get to the ground. Of course, the chute opens super low,
Well,
and they hit the ground hard. They roll out. Rosie pulls up. The psycho pulls up with Tyler. She's wearing like a white silk nightie.
yeah.
And this is totally, I think, not what her character would wear to sleep. So maybe they dressed her up in this to make her look more like innocent, or like the damsel in distress. Either the bad guys did it. I mean, in the script, it's like a white nightie, and that's totally not what this woman would wear. She would probably sleep in the nude, but she would probably be wearing like bully shorts and like a cropped t-shirt to go to bed. Like, she's not wearing like this almost like bridal nightie thing.
Right.
But in my opinion, because I know all about women's sleepwear, my friend.
That's right. I trust you, man.
So that's just my analysis.
Yeah.
Intimate knowledge of female species and what their nocturnal habits are.
Right. And so she comes to Keanu, Johnny Utah. They have their final embrace as the dust is just blowing past them, and Bodie and Rosie are driving off in the sunset. And then, the next scene.
Wait. Yeah. Well, she says she's about to, because like when they last saw each other, she shot his pillow and was like, "Fuck you."
That's right.
And so she realizes, like, oh, he came and like saved my life, so now I'm in love, and she's gonna profess her love or something. And Utah says, "For another time," like it's exactly like the Han Solo scene in Empire Strikes Back, where the chick says, "I love you." Leia says, "I love you," and Han Solo says, "I know."
Right.
Basically, that's what he's saying. He's like, she's gonna say, "I love you," which she doesn't even say.
Right.
And he says, "I know," or "for another time."
Right.
So it's very similar to that epic line. Right?
Nice. And then the next scene is the last scene of the movie. 9 months later, Johnny Utah has turned into John Wick.
Right.
He's
grown
out. He's grown the hair out.
The beard going.
Yeah. Utah has tracked
Bodie has cut his hair. Bodie now has short hair because he's been in disguise. Wants to.
And he shaved. Yeah. Bodie to Bells Beach in Victoria, Australia, where a record storm is producing lethal waves. This is an event Bodie had talked about experiencing, calling it the 50-year storm. That was an earlier scene in the movie. Utah attempts to bring Bodie into custody, but Bodie refuses. During a brawl in the surf, Utah manages to handcuff himself to Bodie, which is a difficult task to do in the middle of a fight.
Right. Well, Bodie's about to drown Utah, but while Bodie's drowning Utah puts the cuffs on him, and so Bodie stops drowning him because, like, well, a dead body would be harder to escape with than a live one. If I'm handcuffed to it.
Bodie begs Utah to release him so he can ride the once-in-a-lifetime wave as the FBI people are coming down from a helicopter and circling the beach and running down the side of the...
Right, you're surrounded.
Yeah. Knowing Bodie...
Bodie says, "Well, where am I going to go? You got me surrounded. There's cliffs on both sides. Am I going to paddle to New Zealand?"
Yeah.
And you see the surf. Like, this wave's most likely going to kill me. Why not just I can't live in a cage. Like, that's the ultimate, because he's got to be free. Like, he's a man of nature, and that's his whole ethos of, like, being free, living without constraints. And so, he's like, this is the ultimate expression of my life and my ultimate goal. And a fatalistic one. It's like, I'm going to surf that wave and die trying, and become one with nature and so Johnny Utah acquiesces and says, "All right, I'll let you do it," because they do. So there's a scene when Johnny walks. Bodie's standing on the beach. He's looking at the waves. They're huge, and Johnny Utah walks behind him and throws he's been carrying the rubber president mask with him this whole time.
Yep.
And is like, "Yeah, I planned this out. when I find him, I'm going to throw the mask down and he's going to be like, oh, it's him, in this like dramatic moment. And so they have a conversation, and Keanu says, I went to every town in Mexico. I found a dead piece of meat. Rosie, I guess he started a knife fight with someone who was better. And then I missed you in Fiji. I missed you in this place. All the islands and the surf spots. And then, I forget some more dialogue. But then Bodhi says, are you still surfing? And Utah says, every day. And I'm like, okay, you can't be on an international manhunt and be surfing every day.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the time. But it's like that, does Keanu roll into some town and be like, well, to find him, he's going to be on the waves, so I got to surf to find him, just like I did before.
Yep.
I just can't look with binoculars, right? Or I guess he's not here. Well, I'm going to surf right now, get some surf in before we go on to the next place. So, but I can explain this because surfing is not an activity. It's the source. It's a state of mind.
Yep.
So when Bodhi is asking Johnny if he's still surfing, he's ascertaining is his state of mind still, surfing, right?
Is he still seeking awakenment?
Yeah.
Or awakening?
Are you
his own
still
awakening?
enlightened? Are you still? Well, you're never become enlightened, but you're still on the path. And surfing is the path to enlightenment. So he's really asking, are you still on the path?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And only Patrick Swayze could pull that shit off.
That's totally what that means, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's one and the same.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they have that
really
fight.
Have to, dissect it.
Yeah. but that's why it works, man. That's why it works.
Yeah.
You have that analogy between surfing and enlightenment, and that's kind of like
free.
What's that?
Without constraints. Living free, living without constraints, being a wild man.
Right, but the path of enlightenment, you have that in Legend of Bagger Vance. You have a similar parallel there. With golf and a path of enlightenment, right? A path of spiritual growth through the activity.
Right.
So, and you really do want Bodhi to get out of this. You want Johnny Utah to let him go. Just because
right.
Patrick Swayze's so convincing of he's a good guy. He robs banks.
Right.
He killed one guy. It's just one guy.
Right. Yeah, but he had to. But that's where that's where we kind of see the field he's sowed. He's lived a violent life, and that's going to result in a violent death. Live by the gun, die by the gun, sort of thing, right?
Yeah. And then the authorities watch Bodhi surf to his death. Utah walks away, throwing his FBI badge in the ocean.
Well, one of the cops comes up, I can't believe you let him go, and Utah's he's not going anywhere, or something like that,
right?
Utah throws his badge into the water, another dramatic moment of I've got my guy, he's dead, I caught him,
right,
and that's why I can let him go, I did my job, and I'll let him do his thing.
Yeah.
And so then I'm done with the FBI. I've done my thing. He's not really, if he stays in the FBI, he's never gonna have the same epic journey and transformation. And of course he's been changed. So he's there's that whole theme in the movie. It's very light, but it's the juxtaposition of the institutionalization of the FBI and its bureaucracy, and that's the opposite of what surfing is all about, of being, free and living without constraints. So
right.
He's done with that. He's changed. He probably, I'm not due to the FBI anymore. And also I think he owes a debt. He owes a debt to Swayze's character, because Swayze has kind of put him on the path to enlightenment and at least open his eyes to this spiritual journey and awakening he had. And also, if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have fallen in love with Tyler, who now, couldn't be more loyal, and because he saved her life. He's given him this, perfect relationship with the perfect woman that, he has now, and hopefully was going back to, presumably. So yeah, he sort of owes a lot to Bodhi, and so that's probably why he let him go.
Absolutely,
of course he's going to die. So what does it matter?
Yeah, and you know what? I actually found an article written about the beat sheet of Point Break in terms of Save the Cat.
Right.
So I want to actually read that because that would be kind of interesting for us to go through.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Point Break beat sheet. Genre. Institutionalized.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did think there was some of that going on. Although, buddy love is another genre in Save the Cat, which I think we have at least. We have the quote buddy love between the two cops, but we also have the buddy love or bromance. I think it's more of an appropriate term between Utah and Bodhi.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very much the central theme because it is about, as I keep saying, life without constraints being free and enlightened, the way of surfing, which is the opposite of a bureaucratic, rigid law enforcement agency that's all about rules and regulations and that sort of thing, about the FBI. And so really that is more of the all-encompassing context of the film.
Right.
The romances happen within in a kind of a slightly smaller bubble inside that larger theme, I guess.
Yeah. Opening image, a juxtaposition of Bodhi in sunny California and Johnny Utah in Quantico, Virginia, shooting in the pouring rain for his final FBI exam on the target range. The motif of water ties the contrasting scenes together. Soon they'll meet, and it will be explosive. The setup. Utah is assigned to the Los Angeles branch in the institutionalized genre. Johnny is the non-field tested agent who joins the federal group. He'll later have to make a choice and a sacrifice. He's given the tour by company man Chief Agent Harp. He's later introduced with Special Agent Pappas in a, quote, meet cute during a swimming pool training exercise. Pappas is the seasoned Brando who's been there 22 years. He'll mentor Nafe, Utah, after some unorthodox investigation work. The theme is stated. Harp gives Johnny the rundown of the place, talking about sacrifice and hard work. That's what Johnny will have to do, sacrifice everything, his partner, his love for a girl, and possibly his own life to do what's next. Setup continued. The ex-presidents, methodical men wearing suits and rubber Halloween masks of the former heads of state, Reagan, Johnson, Carter, and Nixon, rob another bank. They're fast and surgical, only going for cash drawers, never the vault, which burns time. They're in and out in 90 seconds. Catalyst. As they're investigating the latest bank robbery, Agent Pappas reveals his theory to Utah that ex-presidents are surfers. He's laughed at by his fellow colleagues in the bureau, but the seasoned G-man convinces his newly minted partner. Debate. Pappas and Utah's investigation narrows in on the beaches due to some physical evidence. Utah needs to learn how to surf to understand these criminals, possibly rub carnauba wax with them. However, he's bad at the sport and nearly drowns. He's saved by Tyler, who tells him he has no business surfing. B story. Agent Utah focuses in on Tyler. She's going to be his way into this new world. Is it professional or is it love? She shows him moves on how to surf, using the FBI's file to know more about her. Johnny connects with her, lying about the parents. She'll help bring out the best in Johnny, and he's willing to sacrifice his life for her. Break into 2. Johnny Utah learns of and meets Bodhi. The Zen master on a surfboard is in search of the ultimate ride, and little does Johnny know he's found his ringleader as well as a new spiritual mentor. Fun and games. Start here literally with a friendly game of football, Johnny and Bodhi, It's a little intense. Bodie recognizes Utah from a college football game, and just like that, the undercover FBI agent is accepted into the underground group, which consists of all these other guys. Feeling pressure from above for a bust, agents Utah and Pappas get a strand of hair sample from LBJ's ponytail, methodically taking their samples from shaggy beachcombers. The agents get a match at Latigo Beach, which has a nice point break, a promise of the premise.
Yes.
Poster moment. Johnny, who has a run-in with Bunker, has a bonding experience with Bodie when he fights the rest of the confrontational surf Nazi gang. Johnny finds his possible suspects, surf Nazis, whose members all have rap sheets a mile long. He and Pappas stake them out. They plan a raid at dawn. At Bodie's place, Johnny fits right in. During a beach campfire scene, Bodie talks about the ultimate ride, which is Bells Beach, Australia, where the 50-year-old storm comes. He'll be there. It seems like an innocuous detail from a bunch of drunk and stoned surfers, but it's the linchpin to set up the finale. Right. Johnny then goes in on a night mission with his new friends. He has the experience that changed his life. He and Tyler fall in love and make love on the beach as A and B stories cross. The midpoint. Johnny's late for his own bust. It's a brutal shootout and most of the suspects die. Warchild isn't, but he does seriously back off now that he's arrested. The stakes raise when undercover DEA agent Tom Sizemore says they have the wrong guys. This is a false defeat for Utah. Bad guys close in. Bodie invites Tyler and Utah on a dawn patrol surf adventure. That's when Utah sees it. The guys he's hanging out with are the group. They're tight-knit thrill seekers. After following Bodie all day, he reports to his partner. The group will rob another bank. The undercover agent is sure where and when. Pappas is hesitant. His young partner's last hunch was wrong. He and Pappas stake out the bank. However, Pappas is distracted with reading the funny papers and wanting an early lunch of meatballs. Utah, give me two. All is lost. After Utah blows his cover to the surfing compadres, he chases Bodie, but messes up his knee. Instead of taking the kill shot, he lets Bodie go. A whiff of death moment. Losing his suspect and his old football injury plaguing him. Utah's worse off than at the beginning of the movie. Dark night of the soul moment. Tyler finds out who Johnny really is. She shoots at him with his federal-issued pistol, then leaves him. She's hurt by his deception, especially their bonding over dead parents, which turned out to be Utah's fabrication. Bodie's squad figure out their next move. The team leader says this was never about the money. It was all about showing wage slaves that the human spirit is alive and well. This is why none of them turned up in the investigation. They're not career criminals like the surf Nazis. They're thrill seekers looking for the ultimate rush. Stealing banks provides that and gives them a living. This was about the system, man. Bodie shows up at Utah's house early. It's tense because they know who Johnny really is now, and he's on to them too. They force him to go to the skydiving, but it's all a ruse, a distraction to put their plan in action. After landing, Bodie shows Utah an insurance policy video. Tyler's now a hostage. She'll be killed if Utah turns them down. Now that they've been made, the ex-presidents need some road cash to make their escape, except they have a hostage, Johnny Utah. And just like Patsy Hearst, they make him rob a bank with them. Utah has no choice. He cares about Tyler. The robbery goes bad. Security guard, blah, blah, blah. All this shit happens. Harp disrespects the Brando agent and gets knocked out. Break into 3. Utah knows where Bodie's going. That's where Pappas elected to haul him in. Utah's making his choice to end this. The dynamic duo head to Santa Monica. This will lead Utah to Tyler, which will cross A and B stories. Final 5-point finale. Gathering the team. Agents Utah and Pappas arrive at the airport. Sure enough, there's a getaway plane. Complication. They can't shoot the suspects. It will mean Tyler's death. Number 2, executing the plan. Pappas leaves the car, goes on foot. Utah drives up to Bodie and Nathaniel, prepping to leave, holding the pilot hostage. Utah begs his felonious friend to release Tyler, but he won't do it. She's his ace in the hole. Number 3, high tower surprise. Pappas moves in on them to make the arrest. Roach comes ambling out of the hangar. He and the agent have a shootout. Wounded, Pappas shoots and kills Nathaniel. However, the wounded Roach kills Pappas. Number 4, dig down deep. Bodhi takes Utah hostage. They get on the plane. The agent tries to get the Zen master to release Tyler, but he won't. Bodhi throws Roach out with the cash and a parachute. Then Bodhi jumps. All this shit happens. On the ground, Roach is dead. Bodhi gets away, but Johnny and Tyler are reunited, crossing A and B stories. 5, executing the new plan. Agent Utah shows up at Australia. Sure enough, Bodhi is there, waiting for his massive wave to come in. This was set up in the fun and games, and now it's being paid off. Johnny and Bodhi have a pas de deux, part deux on the beach. French words. Utah cuffs his friend, but Bodhi says he can't handle a cage, must be free. Utah lets him go out and rides his final wave. Bodhi does achieve the ultimate ride that Tyler mentioned at the beginning, at the break into 2. Johnny watching, knowing that Bodhi will die, a mercy killing for a friend. Final image. The opening image and the final image bookend naturally in the rainy weather. Utah now has long hair, a contrast to the clean-cut kid. He looks older, wearier. He throws his badge in the Pacific. He's done with law enforcement, burning the establishment down. He sacrificed everything to rescue Tyler and bring Bodhi to justice, and now he must save only himself. So that's like the full breakdown. I guess this is SaveTheCat.com. I guess they do that on a lot of these movies.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, yeah, Point Break is a classic, and it's a great reference point for all other movies that, you know, have this kind of formula, because it's so successful, it's so well done. Like the pacing and the beats and the way the stories interact is perfect. And there's so many movies that try to do this and just fail miserably. I mean, there's countless movies that have that attempt this kind of formula of undercover cop and bank robbers and all this. I have like 2 questions about this rundown.
Yeah,
because at 2 different points, they called Gary Busey's character a Brando.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, who Marlon Brando is, but I do not understand, perhaps, why Gary Busey's character is called the Brando. So
let's go into
figure that out. And then they used another term, a paid adieu.
Yeah.
I know adieu means goodbye, so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I'm saying it's like a bittersweet goodbye or a final goodbye or some kind of goodbye. So maybe we should look that up just to see what exactly that term means as well. How's that spelled?
Oh man.
At the end you said it was like a pas d'adieu, maybe.
Let's see here. PAX, next word DE, next word DEUX, next word PART, next word DEUX.
It's a ballet term?
Okay.
A grand pas de deux is a structured pas de deux that typically has 5 parts consisting of an introduction, an adigo, 2 variations, a solo for each dancer, and a coda conclusion. Okay, that doesn't help me too much.
Right.
But it's interesting to note that Patrick Swayze is a very accomplished dancer.
Right.
So maybe that's why they're using this term.
Exactly.
And I guess it has, there's references to Swan Lake and the Nutcracker. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, it's a dance that requires two dancers. So it's like a duet,
Got it.
A duet. But that has five parts. So, I mean, you really have to, I guess, break down their conversation, and then sort of like a dual, this reconciliation and realization, conclusion of their relationship.
Yeah. So, this is the Brando. So a choice, an ongoing conflict between the Naif, which is the outsider, and or the Brando, which is the rebellious insider.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's probably more of a reference to like, is it what was that movie? Is it Rebel Without a Cause, or it's like some biker movie Brando
Yep.
did like early on, but it's definitely not a reference to The Godfather, which is where I mostly know Brando from.
Right.
So it's probably some reference to his like earlier work, which is
Yeah.
kind of strange because it is that's kind of like an old, outdated term. I'm
Right.
sure there's like better, more recognizable references for Gary Busey's character. It's very similar to I don't know if you've seen the show Mindhunter, but in Mindhunter you have like the young new guy and the old seasoned guy who's a cynic and knows a lot of stuff, but he's sort of like just given up and he's going to ride it out to retirement. So yeah, so we see there's a lot of examples of this dynamic and this relationship between young and old guy in a system, and one guy knows the ropes and the other guy has like the fresh approach and the new energy to get things rolling, and the old guy has the knowledge and in order to guide and help achieve that task.
Yeah.
So it's probably a better term for that than Brando.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, overall, man, I really like it, man. Going back and watching it, it's very enjoyable. Just to see, like, Keanu. You could see Keanu building his career, as an actor. You see Gary Busey really shine in his scenes, where you're like, oh, this guy's unique. You really do see like movie stars. You see Gary Busey as a movie star, Patrick Swayze, movie star. Like,
right?
Yes, the roles were written well. The Bodhi character, but if you had another actor in there, it wouldn't have been the same.
Well, Keanu. This is Keanu Reeves' first action movie.
Yeah,
and he had done a lot of art films and was trying to shake the image of Bill from Bill and Ted, of this spacey California guy,
right.
which he's not. I was reading up on his background, and his mother was a dancer, like a showgirl or something, or a costumer, and his original father was a geologist, and his mother like left his father. Keanu Reeves was born in Lebanon, right? And I think his mother was originally from Hawaii, which is why he kind of seems like that surfer guy. And his mother is like part Hawaiian, part a bunch of different stuff. And I forget what the background of his father was, maybe British, but so he does have that like, ambiguous racial background or whatever. But his mother like divorced and remarried like 3 times. And they moved to New York and then Toronto. So it's like he's a man of the world and had a very like nomadic childhood with 3 different fathers,
right.
and never reconnected with his original father. So and he did get into and was really into sports and acting, and just like very similar to Patrick Swayze. And of course, Patrick Swayze blew his knee out in football,
yep.
and that's what made him become an actor, just like Johnny Utah blew his knee out and became an FBI agent.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's some other. Oh yeah, also Keanu Reeves played an Ohio State quarterback, a former Ohio State quarterback, in the movie The Replacements. So
that's right.
He he's played the same quarterback twice, just in different universes.
Yeah.
But it is interesting of like how pivotal this movie is in like movie history, because it did like establish Keanu Reeves as an action star, and he went on to do Speed after that, and some other like action movies that totally failed, like Chain Reaction and Johnny Mnemonic, before he finally kind of had playing the one with the Matrix. But he's done a lot of like very like art house, serious dramatic films that I've never seen. And I really, looking through both like Swayze and Lori Petty and Keanu Reeves, like the amount of movies and work that they've done that I've never heard of or seen, because they're more like, they're completely opposite of this movie, of more like the artistic real serious acting type movies that are more indie films and things like that. Swayze, I believe, had just done Ghost in 1990, and had done Dirty Dancing before that.
Yep.
But he then went on to do, I think Roadhouse came after this movie at some point, another like just bro-y action a movie that is another kind of like perfect form movie of execution of this thing where he played like a fighter. And, he uses his dancing. He's a very physical guy. He uses his he played football, and he's also a very good dancer, and that allows him to do all these like stunts and fights and things. And he's just a very physical actor. But he has that injury, which has always plagued him and throughout his career. But and like Lori Petty has done a lot of movies, but she's most known for Point Break and Tank Girl, which I think is like really just kind of encapsulates like her persona. Yeah. But I think her first movie they said was Cadillac Man, which was another sort of guy. Tim Robbins is like robbing a car dealership that's run by Robin Williams, and she plays kind of this like quirky, fierce character. And so basically that's kind of, she plays these quirky, fierce, feisty women. Yeah. And so, yeah, man. So that's sort of the triumvirate. And of course, we've got Gary Busey, who is a little bit crazy and edgy and eccentric,
but nobody's like Gary Busey.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why when he's in a role, it's just like he makes it so unique because he's so unique. Yeah.
And I saw a really great interview with him, but he's like, acting is like the absence of acting. It's like it's becoming. It's if you believe you're in this situation, and that's how you approach it. You convince yourself of the lie. The lie becomes true. Yeah. And it's sort of the absence. You're no longer pretending. You're just being whatever that is. Right. And that's always his approach. But he does have that kind of like crazy wild man, like no limits attitude that both Swayze and Swayze character has. And these guys are like all like extreme guys. It is a lot to take on, like, especially for the two main roles of like, okay, you're going to have to learn how to surf and you're going to have to do skydiving. Like, there's not many people that be like, yeah, okay, sounds good. Right. You won't catch me jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. Yeah. And surfing, it's not comfortable. Like, right. So it's about that being comfortable with discomfort. And that's part of the path, I suppose.
Part of the path, man.
Right.
Well, dude, this was fun, man. We'll decide on what's next soon.
For sure.
All right, man.
So, it was a good one. It was really enjoyable. A lot of fun.
Good.